Welcome, chosen ones. You're not here by accident. You're here because you saw it coming before anyone else did. They called you paranoid. They laughed at you for being dramatic, intense, too into your head. But look around now. The very thing you warned them about is crashing in slow motion, and everyone else is in shock. The truth doesn't need permission to arrive. It only needs someone brave enough to recognize it before the crowd does. And that someone is you. While everyone else was busy double-tapping distractions, you were decoding deeper signals. While they were brushing off red flags, you were circling them in highlighter. Now that the community's in shock, here's the plot twist. You weren't predicting the future. You were simply paying attention. So pull up a seat, because today we're diving into exactly how you knew, before the mask slipped, before the collapse, before the crowd woke up. This is your story of discernment, courage, and unshakable clarity. Let's get into it. Number 1, the power of discernment. Let's talk about the power of discernment. See, this wasn't just about having a gut feeling that something was off. Anyone can get a vibe, right? But you went deeper. You didn't just feel the tension, you decoded it. You looked past the polished words and fake smiles that distracted so many. While others were caught up in the surface story, you were reading between the lines, picking up on what wasn't being said. That's where the difference lies. Early warnings often get brushed off because they're inconvenient. People don't want to believe bad news, especially when it challenges what they've invested in emotionally or financially. It's easier to stay comfortable and ignore the signs. But you didn't let that happen. You saw the red flags clearly, and more importantly, you understood why those flags mattered. You weren't just predicting a crash. You understood the cracks that made the whole thing unstable. It wasn't fear speaking, but logic, and that's why your insight was so powerful. You saw the foundation weakening before the building even showed signs of tilting, and that's exactly what gave you the edge when everything started to unravel. Number 2, ridicule before reality. Let's be honest, when you first spoke up, it wasn't easy. You faced ridicule, sarcasm, and those heavy eye rolls that said, "Here we go again." People dismissed your warnings like they were just drama or wild exaggerations. Some called you paranoid. Others said you were seeing shadows where there were none. It's a tough place to be when everyone around you laughs at what you're saying, but you hold on to your truth anyway. But then, something changed. The moment reality finally caught up with your vision, the laughter stopped. Suddenly, those jokes and dismissals faded into silence. The same people who mocked you were now shocked, confused, and scrambling to make sense of what was unfolding. You weren't surprised, though. You'd been watching it all along, patiently waiting for the world to see what you already knew. Here's the thing. You never wanted chaos or panic. You wanted clarity. You wanted honesty. All you asked for was for people to open their eyes and face the facts. Because when truth is spoken clearly, there's power in that. And even if the path is tough, it's better than living blind to what's really happening. Number 3, the burden and gift of early awareness. Being ahead of the crowd comes with a cost. When you see what others can't or won't, there's a loneliness that creeps in. It's like standing on the edge of a storm while everyone else is still enjoying sunshine, unaware of what's coming. You try to share your truth, but most aren't ready to hear it. Their minds aren't open yet, and sometimes your words are met with resistance or even hostility. So you make a choice. You stop talking, Not because you're scared or giving up, but because you need to protect what you know. You don't want your truth twisted or used against you. In a world that's quick to judge and misunderstand, silence becomes your shield. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a deliberate strategy to preserve your power and keep your peace intact. You aren't hiding in the shadows. You're simply holding your ground, waiting for the right moment when others will finally see what you've already known. It takes strength to stay quiet when you have so much to say. But that silence is what keeps you ready, clear, and strong for what's next. Number 4. Seeing the rot before the fall. Before the fall, you could feel the air change. It wasn't just a simple shift. It was something deeper. The smiles that once felt genuine started to seem forced, like people were pretending to be okay when they weren't. The praise and compliments lost their warmth, replaced by something hollow. That energy wasn't just exhausting, it was draining your spirit. You didn't just guess this would happen. You felt it in your bones. While others went about their days unaware, you were already processing the emotional weight of what was coming. It was like carrying a heavy secret no one else could see. Knowing things would break, but watching people pretend everything was fine. That kind of burden isn't easy. It weighs on your mind and heart, especially when those around you choose denial over facing the truth. Watching the rot beneath the surface grow, feeling the tension build, you understood that the fall was inevitable. But it wasn't just about seeing the end. It was about feeling the sadness of how far things had slipped and the frustration of knowing many wouldn't admit it until it was too late. This early awareness came with a cost, carrying truth alone while the world stayed blind. Number 5. Loyalty, masks, and the community as a costume party. Loyalty used to mean something real. It was about standing by people through thick and thin. But what you saw was something else entirely. Loyalty became a transaction, a bargaining chip to be traded when it suited someone's agenda. People switched sides so easily, like changing costumes at a party, depending on who held the most power or who offered the best deal. It wasn't about trust anymore. It was about convenience. The community, at least the one you once believed in, turned out to be less about genuine connection and more like a stage. Everyone was performing, trying to win favor or influence. Instead of honesty and integrity, it felt like a marketplace where words and smiles were currency. It was exhausting to watch, knowing that beneath the surface, most were just playing a role. When you finally stopped playing along, refusing to wear the mask, you felt yourself become invisible. People stopped reaching out, conversations dried up, and you could almost hear the whispers, like you didn't fit the script anymore. But you made a choice, to stand in your truth rather than dance to a rehearsed choreography. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Because real loyalty and real community aren't costumes you wear for the spotlight. They come from a place of honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Number 6. Growth without. You outgrew the story others tried to write for you, the one where you stayed quiet, followed the crowd, and accepted their version of reality. But you weren't meant to fit into that narrow box. Your growth took you beyond what was comfortable for those around you, and that made them uneasy. Your evolution wasn't just about changing yourself. It challenged the whole status quo they had grown used to. You never asked for permission to become who you are. You didn't wait for anyone's approval or validation to step into your truth. That kind of freedom isn't granted by others. It's claimed by those brave enough to walk their own path. And yes, that path can be lonely. but it's also powerful. When others feel uncomfortable with your growth, remember, it's their discomfort, not yours. You don't have to shrink back or dim your light to make them feel safe. You're here to rise unapologetically and without hesitation. Because growth without apology is the truest form of respect you can give yourself. Number 7. Ego masquerading as leadership and the role of watchers versus warriors. I quickly learned to see through the mask. The ego dressed up as leadership, putting on a show for everyone to applaud. It wasn't about guiding or serving the community. It was about control, image, and feeding their own importance. Real leadership doesn't need to shout or perform. It quietly serves, lifts others, and takes responsibility, even when it's uncomfortable. Around you, many wore the label of ally, but in truth, they were just watchers, people who stood on the sidelines, observing from a distance, never stepping into the fight. Warriors, on the other hand, are different. They stand tall when the pressure's on, when the path gets tough. They don't disappear when things get messy or complicated. They show up, ready to face the challenge. This time showed you who your true warriors were. Those who stood by you not for applause, but out of genuine commitment. And it also revealed the watchers, those who vanished when real courage was required. Knowing this made all the difference. It wasn't about quantity or noise. It was about the quality of loyalty, the strength of those who stood firm beside you. Number 8. Understanding the collapse, the fragile foundation. I want to be clear. I didn't claim to predict the collapse like it was some wild guess. What I saw was deeper, the shaky foundation beneath it all. A foundation built on silenced voices, fake unity that only looked good on the surface, and egos that grew faster than the truth could keep up. When success is built on those things, it's not really success at all. It's a house of cards waiting for the slightest breeze. So many confuse momentum with real stability. Just because things seem to be moving fast or looking bright doesn't mean they're solid. It's easy to get caught up in the energy, the hype, and forget to check what's really holding it together. The cracks were there all along, but they were ignored or hidden. This fall wasn't sudden or surprising to those paying attention. It was the natural result of systemic denial and avoidance. When problems are swept under the rug, when difficult truths are silenced, the pressure just builds until something breaks. And that's exactly what happened. Number 9. Seeking confirmation, not closure. I never looked for closure from the community or the so-called leaders. That wasn't my goal. What I wanted was confirmation, from time itself, from the unfolding truth, that I wasn't mistaken in seeing the cracks early on. It was about knowing that my instincts, my careful watching, weren't just paranoia or negativity. They were grounded in reality. You see, the shift wasn't sudden or hidden. It was something I felt long before anyone started giving explanations or offering apologies. There was a change in the air, a shift in the energy that couldn't be ignored, even if most tried. That quiet confirmation, the silent nod from reality, was enough. It told me I had been paying attention when others looked away. And that, chosen ones, is your victory. You didn't need a grand apology or a hero's welcome. You needed the quiet confirmation that your eyes were open and your heart was steady. While the rest of the community reels in shock, you stand calm because you saw it coming. Your power lies in that clarity, the courage to trust what you saw when everyone else looked away. It's not always an easy path. It can feel lonely to walk it. But remember, discernment and integrity are rare gifts. They light the way when the crowd goes dark. So as this story unfolds around you, keep your eyes sharp and your spirit unshaken. Stand strong in your truth. Stay awake to every sign, every shift, every silent clue, and lead. Not for applause, but for the sake of honesty and real change. If you feel this message in your bones, drop a comment below with your moment of clarity. Share this video with someone still in the fog, and let's build a space where truth isn't just welcome, it's celebrated. Subscribe if you haven't already. This channel is for the called, the brave, the chosen. Stand strong, stay awake. Keep leading with truth.